Warden Walks have exploded on the scene, both literally and figuratively, but without these tips, you can say goodbye to 3 stars regardless of the amount of hours you put in. So I'll be breaking down everything from the basics, the differences between support and fireball wardens, alongside even mistakes you might want to avoid so you can warden walk any base. But first, we need to start with the very basics of the warden and the warden walk so you have a strong foundation to start with. So first things first, what is a Warden Walk? Well, this is when you use the Grand Warden with healers to walk on the outside of the base, being able to clear buildings to support and funnel your main attack in. There is another version of the Warden Walk featuring the new Fireball Epic equipment. This is aimed at using your Warden to clear out a compartment paired with the Fireball and Earthquake or Zapquake to get value, which can be used either to support himself or sometimes super witches. Out of these two options, one is very clearly stronger and more flexible than the other, but you do have the choice on whichever you prefer using. However, what level should he be before you even try to use a Warden Walk? Now, the level of your Warden is still going to make a huge difference due to the Warden's lower DPS output and lower HP pool. So these levels are what I would consider the most minimum level for the Grand Warden, even with the addition of hero equipment. So it's still important to max out the Warden, especially for Warden Walks, as not only does it just take Elixir to upgrade him, but it also helps with his survivability and DPS, making Warden Walks far more consistent. But in addition to hero equipment, how does the Warden Walk hold up? Now, for his hero equipment, there are multiple ways to go about it and different sets you can run. This ranges from using the Eternal Tome with the Rage Gem, all the way to using the Rage Gem with the new Fireball Epic. For most Warden Walk attacks, you're going to be using a supportive Warden. So I'd recommend using the Eternal Tome, as it is considered the best supportive ability in the game. You can pair this with either the Rage Gem for better and quicker funnels, or you can even run it with the Healing Tome or Life Gem for it to support your attacks while in the core, or if you're using non-tanky units, just keep in mind that you will be running a smaller Warden Walk due to it being a bit slower than the Rage Gem. However, there is a small subset of attacks that you can use the Warden Walk like a charge, and in those cases, the Rage Gem is a must use for its ability to provide quicker attacks and a bit more damage for your Warden. This should only be paired with the Fireball Epic due to its synergy to support only the Warden himself and to remove as much of the base as humanly possible. Personally though, the best set for most situations is usually going to be the Eternal Tome with either the Rage Gem, Healing Tome, or the Life Gem. But if you want to use the 2 attacks that the Fireball Warden is good in, you can run the Rage Gem with the Fireball. Now we can start with how you even use Warden Walks. So let's first start with support Warden Walks, as they are going to be the most common type that you'll be running thanks to its impressive funneling ability. In this case, you will typically place him in with 5 healers right behind. Since he's not like the Archer Queen and he's not that close ranged, he doesn't really need funneling whatsoever, especially since he's easy to control after you've done your Warden Walk. However, it is still worth noting that you can bring in wizards, sneaky goblins, super barbarians, or even baby dragons to speed up the Warden and control what direction he walks towards, so that way he doesn't wander all too far away from your entry. Since the Warden Walk really doesn't need a lot to be put into it, like unlike a Queen Charge, you can often pair this with Smash style attacks for pure funneling. This could be in things like Super Witches, Super Bowlers, or even Electro Titans, as they all synergize with the Warden Walk, and you can even run the Rage Gem if you want to speed up the Warden Walk even more. Just make sure that once the Warden Walk has created a solid enough funnel on one side, you should lure him back into your army by either running your main Smash troops, or you can use the Archer Queen to help him start moving into the base while he follows behind the rest of your attack. Additionally, you can actually pair this with the Flame Flinger if there are expos or mortars present in a given area. This is actually pretty common at higher town hall levels, especially with box type designs. If there is a situation though where you're going into an area of high DPS or there are a lot of storages, you might want to consider running a rage spell, even if you're using the rage gem, as it allows your warden to keep moving forward, and of course it keeps him from forcing a early ability, whether it's the fireball or the eternal tome. Depending on your town hall level though, this can pair really well with lightning and earthquake spells, typically common in things like super witches or electro titan smash attacks. However, you can also run the Warden as a non-supportive hero and instead as a DPS hero. This is more situational though than most people will tell you. The Warden Walk is still the same as a supportive Warden, but this will typically run the Rage Gem to speed up the Warden's attack and give him a nice DPS increase per hit, but also pairs very well with the Fireball and one Earthquake spell that can basically clear most buildings in the game minus the Town Hall and Eagle Artillery. Usually this is best to clear out a huge amount of value, such as key defenses, enemy heroes, or even the enemy CC, thanks to the splash damage. However, this can only work if you line up the shot, as the Fireball targets the closest defense, meaning you need to know exactly what defense it's going to target. It's also quite limited in the attacks that it can be run in, as a non-supportive Warden typically is recommended only for double hero charges with both the Queen charge and the Warden charge. This might be a little too complicated for most casual players, since it does do a lot of multitasking with 4 different heroes to clear value. However, you can also run this in a Super Witch Smash style attack, but often it's not really worth running when Zapquake just does its job better and allows you to run a more supportive Warden. The Fireball overall is just going to be a little bit more level dependent, and realistically you need to have it maxed out, but you can pair it with a mini Zapquake at lower levels, but you're better off just running Zapquake in general if that's the case. Now, while the Warden Walk is good to use, it can be the source of a lot of time fails, so to prevent this, managing time is just as important. For a more supportive Warden Walk, typically these should last for only up to a minute at most, as if it lasts any longer, it could be the source of your time fails, especially if you're pairing it with either Electro Titans or Super Witches, considering they are slow troops. However, if you are running the Fireball with the Warden, this is typically going to be a longer Warden Walk and can usually either be 2 minutes or even the entire length of the attack time, depending on how you're using it. Just make sure that you are avoiding waiting so long to use the rest of your army, regardless of the type of Warden Walk that you're using, to avoid any type of mistakes. Now, you will make mistakes with the Warden Walk, so here are some things that you should be aware of, and of course how you can avoid them. One such example is using the Grand Warden Walk regardless of the role in a situation where you're being hit by a lot of DPS. I'm talking anything more than 3 to 4 point defenses targeting him, which can really force his ability early, especially if it's either the Fireball or the Eternal Tome. In this situation, in order to fix this, I would recommend either using him away from a suspected area, especially if it's something like Tesla's, or you can just use a rage spell, as this will allow your healers to keep him alive and allows him to remove said area of high DPS. Now, if you're not running the Rage Gem, storages and other high HP buildings will basically significantly slow the Warden Walk down. So you have to have rage spells or just use the Rage Gem, as this can really get you through this issue without having any worry. So the Warden Walk has changed quite a bit ever since hero equipment was added, and the flexibility of choosing however playstyle you want is quite nice. So if you do also want to improve with the Queen Walk or Queen Charge, check out my up-to-date Queen Charge guide for even more ways to smash bases.